to do a little bit of a comparison. So with cement, then how do they decide? Is it a similar? They're doing a similar thing, but just with like, let's say they're using Portland cement. It's
Yeah.
the same. They're doing the same method, just with a different product. Is that right? If they're doing soil stabilization?
Yeah, so cement is typically used. Cement's typically the preferred binder for treating sandy soils, granular soils, so
Okay.
sandy, lower plasticity soils, right?
Yeah.
And it's just the same one cement formulation that works for a certain soil type. With GRAYBOND, it's an engineered binder. You're able to adjust the composition of the binder to tailor it to perform well with a variety of different soils.
Right.
Yeah.
This must be just before we actually wrap up the interview. What has been the feedback now? You've had trials.
Yeah.
You're dealing with clients. How far in with soil stabilization? You've had the one trial.
Right. We didn't speak about that much. So
let's get into that.
Yeah. So our first field trial with soil stabilization happened in April, and that was with a large contractor. It was a project in Garland, Utah, where it was a big storage warehouse that they were building, and the soils needed to be stabilized and strengthened before they would construct on top.
Right.
So so this was a trial where the general contractor, the dirt contractor, and the engineering firm, along with GRAYBOND, we presented the idea of GRAYBOND to all of them, and we all got together, agreed on, and there was interest all around to try GRAYBOND, and compare the performance of GRAYBOND against cement in this project. And we ended up working with them to produce about 30 tons of GRAYBOND at our production facility.
30 tons. How is that? I don't really have a gauge if that's a large amount for.
It's not a large amount, but it's sufficiently large amounts for a trial, right? So to put that in perspective, we had 4 test sections, four test sections side by side, 2 that were treated with GRAYBOND and 2 that were treated with cement. And the size of these test sections were like about 12 inches thick, 12 feet wide, and about 160 feet long.
Okay, so
large test sections. So the 30-ton was enough to.
So there's 4 sections, you're saying?
Yeah, four sections, but the 30 tons of GRAYBOND was used for 2 of those 4 sections.
Right. Okay.
At 4% binder application rate. So that's 4% by weight of the soil.
Why the two sections? Why the?
Yeah.
Is it different compositions in the 2?
Right. So no, it's the same composition, but a different binder application rate. So the dosing was different. 2 of the sections were at 4% dosing, and the two of the other sections were at 5% binder application. So we just wanted to get an apples to apples comparison between GRAYBOND and cement, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So think about 4% GRAYBOND, 4% cement, 5% GRAYBOND, 5% cement, and then track performance over time. Right.
And I'm guessing, since you're here talking about it, it was as good or better than the.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Exactly. So I didn't say that. There was a feedback from the contractors, and we were happy to note that GRAYBOND matched up to cement and bettered the performance of cement in certain instances. Of course, there were learnings from the trials, right? There were we wanted to make sure that in terms of the dosing, the right amount of dosing for the trials, 4%, for instance, was actually the 4% binder sections outperformed the 5%. So meaning for both cement and GRAYBOND. So meaning the 4% dosing was more towards optimal compared to 5%.
So why is that?
That's just a function of how, that's the magic that happens in the lab, where you design where you play with the soils and the binders and come up with the right amount of binder. So to maximize performance. So so
the 5% though. So other result, what would be the why? Like, what performance measure makes the 4% better?
It was a function of the in situ soil bearing capacity. Once the sections were treated, then the engineering firm came out and did the DCP testing, which is the dynamic cone penetrometer testing, which gives you a gauge of the in situ soil strength and bearing capacity. So that was the metric that was used to assess or compare performance. And the 4% treated sections outperformed the 5% treated sections. So